Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Max and Mia. I'm Max.
And I'm Mia. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're really excited to have you here with us.
We truly are. You know, we love seeing how our community grows every week. It's amazing to see so many of you working hard to improve your English.
That's right. And today we have something really useful for you. We're going to talk about everyday conversations, but at an intermediate level. These are the kinds of chats you might have with friends, at work, or even with neighbors.
Exactly. Sometimes people think that intermediate English is just about grammar rules or big vocabulary words, but it's really about having natural, flowing conversations about regular topics.
And remember, learning English is a daily journey. Some days feel easier than others, and that's totally normal. Every conversation you have, every word you learn, it all adds up.
Absolutely. Don't worry if you don't understand everything right away. Even native speakers learn new things every day. The most important thing is to stay curious and enjoy the ride.
So grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and let's dive into today's episode together.
Vocabulary Preview.
All right, today we have 3 fantastic words that you'll definitely hear in everyday conversations. Mia, why don't you start us off?
Sure, my first word is hectic. This word means very busy or full of activity, usually in a stressful way. For example, my morning was so hectic. I had 3 meetings, answered dozens of emails, and barely had time for lunch.
Great choice, Mia. Yes, hectic is really useful. I'd say it's when your schedule is completely crazy and you feel like you're running from one thing to another. Here's my example. Traffic was absolutely hectic during rush hour. It took me 2 hours to get home instead of the usual 30 minutes.
Exactly. Now, Max, what's your word?
My word is coincidence. This means when 2 things happen at the same time by chance, not because they were intended. For example, what a coincidence. I was just thinking about calling you when your message arrived.
Oh, I love that word. It's like when something unexpected connects in a surprising way. Here's another example. It was such a coincidence running into my old teacher at the coffee shop. I hadn't seen her in 5 years.
Perfect. And our final word today?
The last word is overwhelmed. This means feeling like you have too much to handle or deal with. For example, I felt completely overwhelmed on my first day at the new job. There was so much information to learn.
That's such an important word. Overwhelmed is when you feel like everything is just too much at once. My example would be, she was overwhelmed by all the birthday wishes and gifts. She never expected so many friends to remember.
Wonderful. So we have hectic, coincidence, and overwhelmed. These words will definitely come in handy during our conversation today.
All right, everyone. Here's our first conversation. Listen carefully for those vocabulary words we just learned.
Oh my goodness, David, you look exhausted. How's your week going?
Honestly, Sarah, it's been incredibly hectic. I've had back-to-back meetings since Monday, and I still have 3 reports to finish before Friday.
That sounds overwhelming. I totally understand, though. My schedule has been just as crazy. Actually, speaking of busy weeks, did you hear what happened to Jennifer from accounting?
No, what happened? Is everything okay?
Well, it's quite a story, actually. So, you know how she's been stressing about finding a new apartment, right? She's been searching for months with no luck.
Yeah, she mentioned that. The rental market is tough right now.
Exactly. So yesterday, she was having lunch at that new cafe downtown, you know, the one near the train station, and she was feeling completely overwhelmed about the whole apartment situation.
I can imagine. Moving is stressful enough without the added difficulty of finding a decent home.
Right? So she's sitting there looking as stressed as we do right now. when this woman at the next table overhears her conversation with her mom about the apartment hunt.
Oh, this sounds like it's going somewhere interesting.
It gets better. The woman turns around and says, "Excuse me, I couldn't help but overhear. Are you looking for a one-bedroom apartment?" Jennifer was a bit surprised, but said yes.
That's quite forward of a stranger, but I suppose sometimes you have to take chances.
Exactly my thought. So it turns out this woman is moving abroad for work next month, and she has this beautiful apartment that she needs someone to take over the lease for.
No way. What a coincidence.
I know, right? It gets even better, though. The apartment is literally 2 blocks from Jennifer's office, has a balcony, and the rent is within her budget.
That's amazing. Sometimes the universe just works in mysterious ways, doesn't it?
That's exactly what Jennifer said. She told me she couldn't believe how everything just fell into the right moment. After months of hectic apartment hunting and feeling overwhelmed by all the rejections, this just happened out of nowhere.
Did she take it?
Of course! She's moving in next weekend. She called her mom right there in the cafe to share the good news. The woman she met, Lisa, I think her name was, even offered to leave some furniture behind.
That's incredible. It's like all her stress and worry just melted away in one conversation.
Exactly. And you know what the funniest detail is? Jennifer almost didn't go to that cafe. She usually brings lunch from home, but she forgot it yesterday morning because her week has been so hectic.
So if she hadn't forgotten her lunch, she never would have met Lisa and she'd still be apartment hunting.
Right. It's funny how life works sometimes. One small change in routine can lead to such a big difference.
That really sets things in a new light. Maybe our hectic weeks aren't all bad if they can lead to unexpected opportunities.
That's a great way to look at it. Speaking of which, how are you handling all those reports? Do you need any help?
Actually, that's really kind of you to offer. I think I can manage, but it might be worth staying a bit late tonight to get ahead of things.
Well, if you change your mind, just let me know. Sometimes a fresh set of eyes can make all the difference when you're feeling overwhelmed.
I value that, Sarah. You know what? Hearing Jennifer's story actually makes me feel a bit better about this crazy week.
Really? How so?
Well, maybe something good will come out of all this chaos. Maybe I'll meet an important client or learn something new or who knows what else.
Now that's the attitude I like to hear. You never know what coincidence might be waiting around the corner.
Exactly. Thanks for sharing that story, Sarah. I needed that outlook today.
Anytime. Now, shall we get back to our hectic schedules?
Let's do it. But first, I think I need another coffee.
What a wonderful conversation. Did you notice how naturally Sarah and David used our vocabulary words?
They certainly did. Hectic, overwhelmed, and coincidence all came up so naturally in their chat about Jennifer's apartment story.
Now, let's break down what made this conversation so effective for intermediate learners. There are several things I want to highlight here. First, notice how Sarah and David didn't just exchange basic information. They told a complete story with details, emotions, and a clear beginning, middle, and end.
That's interesting. So it wasn't just small talk?
Exactly. This is what separates intermediate conversations from beginner ones. Sarah could have simply said, "Jennifer found an apartment," but instead, she painted the whole scene. She mentioned the cafe location, described Jennifer's emotional state, and even included the detail about forgetting lunch. This storytelling approach is crucial for B1 to B2 level speakers.
And David was really engaged throughout the story, wasn't he?
Absolutely. David used what we call active listening phrases. Things like, "Oh, this sounds like it's going somewhere interesting," and "That's amazing." These expressions show he's following along and encourage Sarah to continue. This back and forth creates natural flow.
What about the vocabulary usage?
Yes. Notice how they moved from complaining about their busy week to finding a positive outlook. This emotional arc is typical in intermediate conversations. They're not just about exchanging facts, but about sharing feelings and finding meaning. David even applied Jennifer's story to his own situation, which shows critical thinking.
The conversation also had a nice message, right?
Yes. Notice how they moved from complaining about their busy week to finding a positive outlook. This emotional arc is typical in intermediate conversations. They're not just about exchanging facts, but about sharing feelings and finding meaning. David even applied Jennifer's story to his own situation, which shows critical thinking.
So there were different layers to understand?
Exactly. Surface level, two colleagues chatting. Deeper level, supporting each other through stress, sharing inspiring stories, and finding hope. This complexity is what intermediate learners need to master, understanding not just what listeners say, but why they say it and how it affects the relationship.
That makes sense. Should we move on to our next vocabulary set?
Great timing, Mia. Let's introduce 3 more useful words for our next conversation.
Vocabulary preview.
Our second set of words is just as exciting. I'll start with subtle. This means something that's not obvious or direct, but requires attention to notice. For example, there was a subtle change in her tone when she mentioned her ex-boyfriend. You could tell she was still uncomfortable about it.
Excellent choice, Mia. Subtle is perfect for describing things that aren't immediately obvious, but make a big difference. My example: the subtle lighting in the restaurant created such a romantic atmosphere that many couples chose it for their anniversary dinners.
Love that. Now what's your word, Max?
I chose reluctant. This means being hesitant or unwilling to do something, usually because you have doubts or concerns. For example, Tom was reluctant to try the new restaurant because he'd heard mixed reviews about their service.
That's such a useful word. It shows that someone isn't completely against something, but they have reservations. Here's my example. She was reluctant to share her idea during the meeting because she wasn't sure how her colleagues would react.
Exactly. And our final word, Mia?
The last one is assertive. This means being confident and direct in expressing your opinions or needs without being aggressive. For example, Maria was assertive during the negotiation. She clearly stated what she wanted, but remained respectful throughout the discussion.
Perfect choice. Assertive is essential for describing confident communication. My example would be, his assertive response to the criticism showed that he could defend his work without becoming defensive or rude.
Wonderful. So we have subtle, reluctant, and assertive. 3 words that really capture different communication styles and behaviors.
These words will definitely enhance our next conversation.
Jake, I'm so glad I caught you. Are you still coming to my birthday dinner on Saturday?
Of course. I wouldn't miss it, Emma. Though, I have to admit, I'm a bit reluctant about the restaurant choice. Isn't Le Bernardin quite expensive?
Well, yes, it's not cheap, but it's my birthday. Besides, I made the reservation months ago. I was being assertive about celebrating this milestone properly.
I understand that, and I want to celebrate with you. It's just that money's been tight lately. Can I be honest about something?
Always. What's on your mind?
I've been reluctant to mention this, but I recently took a pay cut at work. The company's restructuring, and I had to choose between that or losing my job entirely.
Oh, Jake, I had no idea. You've been so subtle about it. I mean, you haven't changed your lifestyle or complained about anything.
I didn't want to make it everyone else's concern. But now I'm worried about spending $200 on dinner when I'm trying to save every cent.
I completely understand. Actually, there's something subtle I noticed about your behavior lately. You've been declining invitations more often, and now it makes sense.
You noticed that? I thought I was being discreet about it.
You were, but I know you well. When someone usually says yes to everything and suddenly becomes reluctant about social events, there's usually a reason.
That's very observant of you. I've been struggling with how to handle this situation. I don't want to be that friend who always has money troubles, but I also can't afford to live like I used to.
Jake, you should have been more assertive about telling me. I would never want you to feel uncomfortable about money, especially for my birthday.
I know, but it's hard to admit when you're going through financial difficulties. There's something subtle but real about the shame that comes with it.
I get that, but you're one of my closest friends. Listen, what if we change the plan? I could be assertive with the restaurant and move the reservation to next month when things might be better for you.
No, Emma. I don't want to ruin your birthday plans. Everyone's probably looking forward to Les Bernardines.
Actually, can I tell you something? I've been a bit reluctant about that restaurant, too. The atmosphere is quite formal, and I was worried it might feel too stiff for a birthday celebration.
Really? You seemed so excited about it when you first mentioned it.
I was being assertive about making a reservation somewhere fancy, but honestly, I think I prefer more relaxed environments. There's something subtle about intimate gatherings that gets lost in overly formal settings.
So what are you thinking?
What if we have a dinner at my apartment instead? I could cook, we could invite everyone over, and it would be much more personal and relaxed.
That sounds wonderful, but I don't want you cooking for your own birthday. That doesn't seem right.
Actually, I love cooking, and there's something subtle but meaningful about sharing a home-cooked meal with friends. It feels more genuine than a restaurant.
If you're sure about this, I'd love to help. I could bring appetizers or dessert. I'm actually quite good at making tiramisu.
Perfect. And Jake, I want you to be more assertive about these things in the future. Money situations are temporary, but friendships shouldn't suffer because of them.
You're absolutely right. I was being too subtle about my struggles instead of just being direct. I should trust that real friends will understand and adapt.
Exactly. There's nothing wrong with being reluctant about expensive plans when you're watching your budget. That's just being responsible.
Thanks for being so understanding, Emma. I was reluctant to have this conversation, but I'm really glad we did.
Me too. You know what? I think this birthday celebration will be much better than the original plan. There's something subtle but important about celebrating with people who truly care about you in a comfortable environment.
I agree completely. Should I call the others and let them know about the change?
That would be great. Just be assertive about explaining that it was my decision to change venues. I don't want anyone thinking it's because of financial concerns.
Actually, Emma, I think I should be honest with the group. I've been too subtle about my situation, and maybe being more open will help others feel comfortable sharing their own challenges.
That's a really mature approach, Jake. I think you'll find that most people have been reluctant to discuss money matters too, but everyone will appreciate your honesty.
You're probably right. Sometimes being assertive about difficult topics actually brings people closer together.
Absolutely. Now, should we start planning the menu? I'm thinking something Italian since you're bringing tiramisu.
Sounds perfect. This is going to be the best birthday celebration ever.
What an authentic conversation. You could really hear how naturally our vocabulary words flowed throughout their discussion.
Yes. They used reluctant, subtle, and assertive in such realistic ways while solving a real friendship challenge.
This conversation demonstrates something really important for intermediate learners: how to handle sensitive topics with friends. Emma and Jake didn't just chat about surface-level things, they navigated a potentially awkward situation with maturity and care.
The money topic can be really difficult to discuss, right?
Absolutely. And notice how Jake was initially reluctant to bring up his financial situation. This shows realistic human behavior. We often avoid uncomfortable conversations even with close friends. But Emma picked up on subtle cues that something was different about Jake's behavior patterns.
Emma seemed really understanding throughout the whole conversation.
She did. And that's because she demonstrated excellent listening skills. When Jake finally opened up, Emma didn't just say, "okay," and move on. She acknowledged that she had noticed subtle changes in his behavior, which validated his feelings and showed she truly cares about him as a friend.
What about the way they solved the restaurant situation?
Perfect example of collaborative problem solving. Emma could have been defensive about changing her birthday plans, but instead she was assertive about finding a solution that worked for everyone. She didn't make Jake feel guilty, and she even admitted her own reluctance about the formal restaurant atmosphere.
So they both had concerns about the original plan?
Exactly. This shows how assumptions can create unnecessary stress. Jake assumed Emma really wanted the fancy restaurant, while Emma was actually having second thoughts too. When they communicated openly, they found a much better solution that suited both of their actual desires.
The conversation had a really nice development, didn't it?
Yes, it moved from surface-level planning to deeper friendship values. They discussed honesty, financial challenges, and how to maintain relationships during difficult times. This emotional depth is exactly what intermediate learners need to master. Conversations that matter beyond just exchanging information. And that's a wrap for today's episode. We hope you enjoyed these conversations as much as we did.
Yes, we talked about real situations, stress, friendship, and how small things can bring surprising changes.
Exactly. And remember, learning English isn't just about grammar or long lists of words. It's about using language to connect, express yourself, and grow.
And that takes time. Some days feel easier, others a bit slow, but every little step matters.
So be proud of yourself for showing up today. Listening, thinking, learning, it all adds up.
And don't worry if you need to hear things more than once. That's how we all grow.
If you liked today's episode, share it with a friend who's also learning English. And if you want more, stay tuned. We have many more real conversations coming your way.
Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and
keep learning one day at a time.
see you soon!